All right, so what's up, everybody? It's Jason Jani from the SCE Event Group and, of course, Team DMS. And today we bring to you another episode of The Formula. And today I am absolutely pumped to be spending some time and chopping it up with the legend himself, Mr. Joe Maz. Joe, what's up?
How you doing, man?
Thank you for taking some time out of your crazy schedule to spend some time with the crew at DMS.
So, my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Being in the game, you are someone that is incredibly respected, not just by the DJ, but by the artists, by the producers, and we can go a lot of different directions with this. But let's start at the beginning. How long have you been in the game?
Oh, I guess it was 2002 when I first got started.
Okay.
So what is that, 16 years?
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the first event that you did? I saw a picture of City Hall on your Instagram.
So that was it. That was the first event that I did. It was a friend's going away party. She was going to college, and she goes, you're always messing with everybody's stereo at the parties that we go to, so why don't you just DJ my going away party? And my brother had already been sort of a DJ in high school. Mm-hmm. He was my Gigamesh. And I rented his equipment from him, or borrowed his equipment from him, and just messed around and had a blast doing it, and that's where it got started.
It's crazy. So I guess technically you started off in like the mobile world, right? Like the private event space. I guess you could say,
yeah.
And then, here we are years later, you're traveling the globe, playing in some of the hottest, most incredible nightclubs, working with the hottest artists, putting out music that is now staples and a lot of DJs creates as the go-to. I guess talking about music a little bit, like who's one of your biggest inspirations?
I would say Daft Punk is probably number one. Calvin Harris is a big inspiration. Eric Priz was a huge inspiration. DJ Snake, Henry Fong, guys like that really inspire me.
Okay, and what about emerging artists? Who do you have your eye on?
Henry Fong, I think, is a pretty big emerging artist. Crank That is a big emerging artist. Hero Bust, these guys in the trap world. They've Dirty Audio is a big emerging artist, in my opinion. Guys like that are really inspirational right now. Trap has become really big.
Do you find yourself playing a lot of trap in your sets, or are you kind of mixing it up? How would you describe your style to anyone that's not super familiar with hearing you play?
My style has always been pretty open since the beginning. It definitely leans more in the hip-hop trap side now, for sure. It's always morphing, though. I'll hear something new that I really like and try and direct myself into that route. And if it works, it works. I tend to go with what the people like to hear.
What was it when you first got into it? What was the style going back 16 years ago? What jazzed you up? Where were you? What got you kind of moving, and where were you spending your time in terms of genre?
I would say hip hop as it was back then. I think people like the Beat Nuts were huge for me. Nice. Tribe Called Quest, all that kind of stuff. And it just kind of morphed over time. I didn't really discover house music in a major way until probably 2004. I didn't really go that route. I was more of a hip hop guy initially.
And how the trends changed so much over the years, how or what would you say your key is to staying relevant, right? Because music has changed a number of times in 15 years, right? And now we're kind of back to that hip-hop-y, trap kind of
right.
sound, that slow, slower BPM as opposed to electro banger kind of stuff.
Right.
How do you stay relevant and stay on top of everything?
I guess I could say that it's kind of a blessing to be an open format DJ for that reason. Mm-hmm. Because I've always just kind of been open to everything. But also, I guess if you're trying to be an artist, which I always strive to try and make that jump from being a remix guy to an artist, people tend to like that you stay true to your sound. Although I don't think it's as true today as it once was. People are a little bit more open than they once were, but it's tough to distinguish yourself in a certain realm as an artist if you're always floating around to different sounds.
I think talking about the remix and production world, I think being the 2017 remixer producer of the year, remix producer of the year, is an incredible feather in your cap. How did it feel to get that nod from your colleagues, from the industry, from the influencers that admire your work?
Oh, it was honestly one of the top moments in my career for sure, especially, like you said, coming from people that are my colleagues. I think is probably the best feeling of all of it. And then to be handed the award by a guy like Nile Rodgers was just, I was speechless. I look back at what I said, and I wish I could go think about who was about to hand me this award. I didn't know until it was handed to me, so that it was going to be him. But yeah, just truly an amazing feeling.
Now, do you have the award in your studio at home? Is that
I don't display it anywhere in my house yet. I guess I don't think about it like that. I think about the day all the time.
Right.
But yeah, just truly amazing.
So let's talk about kind of like your schedule, because you are moving around a lot and you're playing some of the hottest venues from coast to coast. You're here in Jersey, but I think you said you're headed off to San Diego tomorrow. You have a lot of stuff kind of in motion. What's one of your favorite markets to go into and play? Do you have like a favorite city that you like to spend your time in, because you do bounce around so much?
Right. I mean, it's tough to say exactly which is my favorite city, but I really enjoy playing here at the Borgata. I've been playing for 10 years at this venue.
Yeah.
And always a great response from the crowd. Really open to anything you want to play. Boston, I really enjoy as well.
They go hard.
It's a young crowd in Boston, and they have so much energy. I do really like playing Vegas and Miami and San Diego, and back where I'm from, Minneapolis is always a great time. It's tough to really just say one city in particular.
It probably have to be in the mood of the day, right? Like where you're feeling, what
right.
music you're connecting to, because regionally, like the music shifts and is different, from area to area and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So I guess let's talk about the travel schedule. So you do move around quite constantly, and you're kind of always on the go. How do you achieve some kind of balance in your personal life and in the Joe behind the scenes life?
I guess it's just discipline. I think is one of the things I've learned over the years, to try and discipline yourself no matter what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Set a time to do this, set a time to do that, and stick to the plan. Try and create structure in your life.
With that, I would assume, because there's the performance DJ side of Joe, right? Joe
right.
Balls. Then you have the remix producer side, so you need to spend time in the studio. But now, the software platforms allow you to kind of be on the road and to work on projects and whatever. Do you find yourself doing a lot of remix production work on the road? Or
Absolutely.
Primarily at home and kind of in your comfort zone?
I definitely start a lot of my work on the road, in the planes, and it did more from there to my studio for the finished product, so I can get the frequencies right and hear it a lot better than I can on the headphones. And
would you kind of say that you sculpt your projects around kind of the situations that you're exposed to, or is there a source of kind of inspiration for some of the projects that you're working on, or that you kind of take under your wing?
Each project is different, but I generally, I might hear something that somebody else has done and say, wow, I wish I could, make a sound like that, and try and, I guess you could say, mimic the sound, but then put my own spin on it, or layer it with something else, or take it a different direction, which I feel like everything is really a remix to a degree.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody, where do you get original thought from? It's like, how does that even really exist? It's like you heard something and then you put your own play on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, certainly do. Staying on the remix kind of topic for a little bit, can you kind of walk me through a very high level kind of process in order to kind of work on a production or a project?
I guess first I'd figure out which key I'm in, and then I will generally start with some chords. I like to use a lot of plucky sounds and synths and figure out some good chords. Once I have those chords going, I usually, for me, go to the vocal, and then I'll try and basically come up with a lead sound that kind of works along with the vocal. Mm-hmm. And then once I have kind of the pattern of where I want that lead to go, then I'll go to basically my drop section, which I feel like, for a remix is kind of the meat of the track. And I'll just work on that till, my hands start getting bloody. And then once I got that, I'll build everything around the vocal and the verses and all that.
Once you get it like together, you spend a lot of time in that, like, hey, I think it's ready. Do I want to let this go, or do I want to sit on this for a little bit? Or is it something like once you feel pretty good with it, you're ready to kind of like let it loose?
I get it to a point, and then then the mastering begins, which is a whole nother process in itself. It's a whole nother art. And I'll listen to it on multiple speakers. I'll bring it out to my car. I'll send it to friends, and then I'll finally listen to it in the club. And once I do all those things, it's kind of my protocol. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I'll probably do is compare it to something that I know that really hits in the club.
Let me ask you a question. Like time-wise, I know like remix projects can take, they can turn out right away, or it can take a little bit of time and a lot of energy and a lot of thought. What's like an average time for you to turn something around once you start a project?
Usually 2 weeks. That's pretty standard in the industry, although now it's gotten to the point where the technology has made it, I feel like, easier to get it done in about a week. Yeah. But there's been times where I've gotten it done in like 5 hours.
Wow.
It's like you open up an old project and just kind of start swapping things around. I always talk to people about like the Neptune's production style, mm-hmm. and if you listen to some of these tracks that were produced, like Snoop Dogg Beautiful versus Justin Timberlake Rock Your Body, mm-hmm. or you listen to Usher versus Freak League by Didi Pablo. Yeah. It sounds like they're kind of in the same session and they're just kind of switching things around, which is what I do as well.
Right. That's awesome.
It works out great because it's a sound. Your sound is identifiable, mm-hmm. and it's cohesive, but also it's something brand new.
What's one of the projects that like you're the most proud of kind of completing? Is there one that like sticks out that you're like, this is the one,
I mean, I was invited to do a remix for Adele. That was just being associated with that artist, I think, was a pretty cool thing. To do a remix for Coldplay. One of my first things that I ever really got excited about was a project that DJ Benzi hit me up about, which was a Kanye West remix. He had this remix bootleg album that came out in 2008. And with Discotheque, we did this remix of Homecoming. Wow. With that project. So I'm still pretty proud of that project because it was kind of the one that kind of put us on the map.
Do you get buzzed when you go out? And, even... I'm sure you don't go out all the time, but when you do get a chance to get out and you hear one of your edits playing, or you're in a car and you hear it on the radio, does that still like get you jazzed up and get you excited? Or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I still have the same passion that I did from day one, honestly. And I'm most inspired when I first walk into a club, really, because I'll hear the opening DJ do something and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. Or play a mix that I haven't heard before. And I just get inspired, and it's like the time where I want to go to the studio the most is right when I walk into the club. It's a weird thing, but that's when I'm most inspired for sure.
All right, so now skipping kind of around a little bit, let's talk about kind of like the state of the industry today, because now you not only have to be a talented DJ and producer, but you have to have your finger on the pulse in terms of social media and kind of your presence online in terms of exposure in pools, what you're posting on the social networks, and kind of keeping up with the content, responding to people, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Are you following anyone like outside of the DJ industry in terms of like inspiration, guidance, coaching, any of that stuff?
Guidance and coaching. I mean, you ever heard of Gary Vee?
Of course I do.
Okay, well, he's somebody that definitely inspires me. Yeah, in coaching, life coaching, for sure.
He's a beast. It's cool. Now, out of all the platforms, do you have a favorite that you spend your time on?
I think I'd probably, as far as social media is concerned, I'd spend a lot of time on Instagram. Okay. Like most people, just scrolling through pictures.
Now, let's talk about kind of like life in general. Would you mind sharing with our community here a piece of advice that someone has given you in life, whether it's in music or production or playing out, and it's something that you've carried with you over some time, something that's been impressionable on you in some way, shape, or form, something that if I was to ask you for a piece of advice, or if I was to ask you for a piece of advice for our community, what would it be in terms of making it, living it, being it, surviving in this business, or aspiring to get there in this business?
I guess, the phrase that keeps coming back to me, based off the question you just asked me, is DJ Riz used to have this kind of motto that was on his Twitter, and it just caught my attention. It was consistency equals longevity.
Very dope.
I mean, it's pretty simple, but it's true. And if you just stay consistent, I think you'll have longevity for sure.
Now, to close out, let's talk about two things. One, what projects do you have going on that we should be on the lookout for, ones that you're proud of, things that are kind of like in the pipeline for you, and then we'll do our closeout with a minute with, if you don't mind, and kind of take it from there.
I mean, the projects that I have coming out, I have a remix with Atlantic Records. It's an artist called Haley Kiyoko, I believe is her name. And she's got a single called Curious that I finished up 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I think that's going to be released like next week. Okay. It's about 104 BPM, and it sounds a lot like this Clean Bandit I Miss You remix I just did about 4 months ago. Okay. And I have an original EP that I've been working on forever. Yeah. But I just get caught up in these remixes over and over. So I'm not sure of the release date on that, but as soon as it's done, I'll announce it to the world, of course, and DMS will be the first to hear it.
Very nice. Our community will love it. You know, DMS, there's a lot of people connected to the group as a whole, and there's a lot of people that have been longtime supporters of your work. So I'm going to just end it with this, saying thank you on behalf of our entire world.
Hey, thank you.
Appreciate you for everything that you create, everything that you produce, and everything that you have going on. It's just awesome.
I appreciate that. I've known Kevin for a long time, and I know a lot of the guys that work at DMS, and it's great to meet you, and I appreciate you guys' support as well.
Yeah, awesome. All right, guys, so this is Jason Jani and Team DMS, and this right here is The Formula. Honored to have spent some time to chop it up with Joe Maz, 2017 Remix Producer of the Year, someone that, if you don't know, you got to get to know. Last and certainly not least, where can our community find all of your content? Website, Instagram, give us the social handles.
DJJoeMaz.com.
That's it. You have it. Be sure to subscribe to DMS right here on YouTube and check back for future episodes of The Formula. Thanks so much for watching.